is debt good, bad? How would you, I mean, when people are on their way, I mean, should they avoid debt all the way? Should they use some debt? There's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of philosophies on that. And I think it depends on what you really want, right? So first of all, there absolutely are bad debts, right? And bad debts are things that are going to depreciate in value quickly, such as cars or, if you're financing credit card debt, stuff like that. So those are a lot of times student loans. Those, in my mind, are bad debts because they are usually things that people are purchasing that they just simply can't afford. And student loans I usually throw in there because we all know the person who worked their way through college. Mm-hmm. So personally, right, I didn't go to college. I think that it's right for some people. Lord knows if you're going to be a dentist or a doctor, a lawyer, we're glad you go to college, right? Mm-hmm. But for the majority of people, that probably isn't going to be the best use of their time or assets, mm-hmm. right? And so I would say those are bad debts. And then outside of that, if I've always been the person, I've tried to stay away from debt. So could I have made more money if I would have used leverage with it? Yeah, probably. But it sure helps my quality of life because I never stress about money.
Your peace of mind is like awesome because you don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't ever have to worry about anything. I live life the way I want because I don't owe anybody any money next month. It doesn't matter to me.
A friend of mine used to say, I love all my cars that I have because when I turn them on, they go paid for, right?
Yes, exactly.
I sleep like a baby at night, and it's true. Like we have no debt. Life is great. Just that alone. No debt.
So like paying cash for cars, is that the wisest thing to do with money? Maybe not, but it sure helps me emotionally, mm-hmm. right? And so for me personally, I like to pay cash for things. Even my first house that I ever bought, I paid cash for. Now, was that the wisest thing in the world? Probably not financially, right? But I still look back and I don't regret it.
Tell you what, man, I think you can argue it either way, right? But I'm the same way. If I was going to, and I told you this back in the day when you were buying your first house, if you remember, I said, Jeff, don't buy that house unless you could pay cash for it. You don't have to use your cash if you don't want to, but if you're going to buy a house, don't buy it until you have enough cash to pay for it.
Exactly.
Same thing with cars, right? Everybody out there, you shouldn't be buying a car. You don't have the cash set aside to pay it off if you needed to. Go ahead and get a loan if you want to, but don't get that loan unless that's just a rule of thumb. Yeah, you got to start somewhere, but that's a rule of thumb that I've tried to follow.
I think when you decide like what kind of house or what kind of car you're going to buy, I would suggest you buy a car that is the value of your monthly income and a house that's the value of your annual income.
Yeah, I think it's a good rule.
So people say, man, well, like a house in St. George right now, average house is $500,000. So you're telling me I should make $500,000 a year before I buy a house? Yeah, that's what I think so. Yeah, and if you don't want to do it that way, then however you're going to save up enough cash to be able to pay cash for it. And again, if you want to keep that money invested,
sure,
that's fine. Do that
because arguably you could potentially take that money and do better with investments, while and take a mortgage out and get a lower interest rate and have the tax write off and blah blah blah. Right, but again. Peace of mind. I'm like you, and probably why you think some way the way you do is because you came from we started
from the same environment.
Yeah, and I was the same way. I wanted my cars paid for, my house paid for, and if I had that, my peace of mind was like, okay, I'm good. Like, could I do better if I didn't pay my house off and use that money to invest? Maybe.
Yeah.
But
then when it comes back to debt, so I always say, your house you live in is not an asset. Right? Like people go, when it's paid off, you still have a rent payment and it's called taxes and insurance, right? Like,
sure.
And they go up every year too. So your rent goes up every year to live in a paid off home. So your home is really never paid off. You're always still going to have to pay to live there, and like,
right.
If you got taxes and insurance and internet and utilities and all that, it's, even if your house is paid off, these days still a couple grand a month to live in, right? So I think that's an important thing to understand. Now, I do think that using debt to purchase assets that will pay you a cash flow on a monthly basis, like real estate or, I think real estate is the best example in that. So like if you put down a down payment, let's say you buy $1 million property and you put 20% down, you're actually leveraging $1 million of value, right? But you only had to put $200,000 into it. So you can create a lot of wealth that way, as well as a lot of tax advantages. But in this modern day, so many people are selling it as this passive income, and I'm sorry, but it's just not. It's not passive income.
Rates are high today. You can't get enough payment to have it be a passive income at this point. They're different environments.
That too, but still, stuff breaks, stuff happens, and even if you have a property manager, someone still has to manage the property manager.
Someone's got to be renting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for it. I think it's very wise to do if you have the knowledge. But personally, I think there's a time and a place. You know, there's a saying that says that like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And while that might be true, the average millionaire used 1 stream to get rich. And then they diversified once they were wealthy. You see all these people trying to get wealthy and you're like, oh, I'm just working on my 7 streams, you know? And it's like, dude,
No.
you got to get good at one first.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think on your way to wealth, you should get really good at wealth creation through one skill that's going to pay you a lot of money. Get financially secure and stable so you're bulletproof no matter what happens. And then you can start investing into things, because learning the real estate game takes time and effort and energy. You've got to you have to put some time and effort into that, right?
And you got to be patient.
You do. And so if you can get a business or an income, and some people use real estate to do that, you know, but a lot of people that sell real estate actually never become real estate investors, which always blows my mind, you know, like the guy that sells real estate that doesn't own a house, you know, it's like, dude, you're going against everything you say you believe in, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, you find a way to grow your income, and then you can use that to, if real estate is your chosen route, then do that. You know, for me, I made a ton of money in indexed funds over the years, but I've also made money in real estate, you know, but I think that happened because I could make decisions when the opportunity presented itself.